Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online regulation VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I wanted to feature a really fun team centered around Empoleon. The last time Empoleon was super meta relevant was back in 2009, so it's been 14 years. Some players have used it in formats like VGC 2013 and 2019, but it has not really been very popular, and it got a major buff with the DLC recently thanks to it getting competitive as an ability now. In addition, it's just in a decent format right now where it has a lot of great type coverage into a lot of common Pokemon. The team is really fun, and it has things like Alolan Ninetales with Light Clay and Aurora Veil to further enable Empoleon's bulk, as well as Sinistcha to heal up the Empoleon, and you've also got Dragon Dance and Roaring Moon. So I'm really excited to try it because Piplup is my all-time favorite Pokemon, so I'm curious to see how Empoleon can fare in this format, and I do think that it is finally time for it to be meta relevant. So as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, would really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's get started. Breaking things down, as always, rental, pace, and team creator are linked down in the description below, and question of the day, I want to know how you would buff another starter if you had the ability to, with Empoleon getting buffed down in the comment section below. Now, I think we're in an interesting time. Empoleon getting access to competitive obviously makes it substantially stronger. Competitive is fairly straightforward. Every time your stat is lowered by an opponent, the special attack is raised by 2. So this is mainly really valuable because of all the intimidators that exist in the format, especially things like Landorus, Therian, and Hisuian Arcanine. And part of the idea behind this team is that you have Roaring Moon and you have Hisuian Arcanine. Both of these are really strong physical attackers that will often bait your opponent into bringing Intimidate, and if they do bring the Intimidate, then Empoleon's competitive activates. But competitive can also activate from things like Icy Wind, as well as Bleak Wind Storms, Speed Drops, and so it's just a really valuable ability in general, and way more valuable than Torrent, for example. So that alone already makes Empoleon really good, but honestly, in my experience playing with this, I actually don't have competitive activate very frequently, and that being said, Empoleon still feels really good in a lot of matchups. And the reason for that is because a lot of the top Pokemon in the meta right now actually don't do super well into Empoleon. For example, you think about something like Fluttermane. Empoleon can wall Fluttermane and then just retaliate back with Flash Cannons to knock out. You also have things like Tornadus, Champao, Landorus, and Fire Ogerpon, and so Empoleon can actually have a decent matchup against a lot of those, right? Against something like Landorus, obviously it's awkward because they can Stomping Tantrum you, but you can just retaliate back with an Ice Beam. You can consider a Grass Terra as well, and the combination of Ice, Water, and Steel coverage is amazing. It hits so many Pokemon in so many different types in the format. The fourth move on Empoleon I think really can be flexed. I think Grass Terra, Terra Blast, for example, is an option, but Vacuum Wave is cool, especially in best of ones, because you can really catch opposing teams off guard. That's really valuable into things like Chiampao as well as Chi-Yu, and to just finish things off with Focus Sash. This Empoleon is just max speed, max special attack, and so it's not really bulky. I think you can really easily move Eevee's out of speed into HP defense and special defense, so I'm curious, what the most optimal Empoleon Eevee spread is, but the idea is that even without any bulk, you have the light screen and or dual screens from Alolan Ninetales and Sinistcha to heal and intimidate support from Hisuian Arcanine. So as a result, with the speed investment, you might be able to outspeed a couple things that people generally won't anticipate Empoleon outspeed, because I think more people would invest in bulk, for example, rather than speed here. But ultimately, just a really cool Pokemon. I think Water Steel, really good coverage, and I think Empoleon specifically, it synergizes really nicely with Sinistcha, because obviously Sinistcha can heal the Empoleon, but also if you think about what can wall this set, like water type Pokemon in general are just pretty annoying, and Sinistcha really loves going up against opposing water types. This Sinistcha is actually max HP and max special attack, which is really interesting as well, because you're able to deal so much damage with Matcha Gotcha. When I had initially used this team, I actually misread the pace and I thought it was just max HP, max defense, so I was like, how is Sinistcha dealing so much damage? But then I saw the special attack and I was like, oh, it's modest max special attack. So this thing hits like an absolute monster, and it's actually really critical because a lot of people are going to Water Terra against the Empoleon, so Sinistcha can take advantage of that and then just go for these Matcha Gotchas. This Sinistcha set, by the way, feels absolutely amazing. You can Trick Room to enable Empoleon against faster-oriented teams. Strength Sap just hard wins against physical attackers, especially things like Iron Hands, and Trick Room and Rage Powder is just really good support coverage. To round things out, you've got Alolan Ninetales to set up screens, which is fairly straightforward. As you'll notice, this is a really bulky Alolan Ninetales. It's more designed to just stay on the field, guarantee that you get that Aurora Veil up, and then that sets up the rest of the team for success. Ghost Terra is valuable because it means you can lead Alolan Ninetales in front of Fake Out from something like Iron Hands or Rillaboom and still get the Aurora Veil up safely, and you've got Blizzard and Moonblast just for consistent damage. Roaring Moon here is a Dragon Dance acrobatic set, and like I mentioned, part of the theory behind this team is that the Roaring Moon and the Hisuian Arcanine often will bait out Pokemon like an activate competitive on Empoleon, right? And so those intimidators like Landorus, like Hisuian Arcanine, Empoleon can totally take advantage of. And so if you want to shut down Roaring Moon, then you're going to have to activate competitive on Empoleon potentially, and that's a really scary trade-off to deal with. The Roaring Moon here, otherwise, though, just a really strong set with Dragon Dance and its speed booster energy. So the idea is that you bring out Roaring Moon, you Dragon Dance, Flying Terror, and just start clicking acrobatics into everything. You have a Dark Urshifu here. This is fairly straightforward. The main thing to note is that it's Adamant rather than Jolly, so be careful if you're going up against the opposing Urshifus. That might be max speed. And then you've got Hisuian Arcanine with Grass Terror and just a fairly standard Flare Blitz Rock Slide Extreme Speed Protect set. Citrus Berry here just because you really love switching the Hisuian Arcanine out with this team. Being able to pivot in and out and then heal back up with Sinistcha is really valuable. So a lot of different ways that you can play with this team. I generally think about leading Ninetales if possible to set up that Aurora Veil immediately, but I honestly like leading Empoleon because I think it has such a good matchup into so many Pokemon in the format. So very frequently I'll just bring it out immediately and see what is best paired with it. You could lead Sinistcha if you want to like pressure with Trick Room immediately, but generally I put this in the back. So something like a Hisuian Arcanine Empoleon lead where you get an Intimidate off so that Empoleon takes less physical damage, or a Ninetales Empoleon lead. I think both are really effective with Sinistcha in the back. I think if you want to play towards Roaring Moon, you can immediately go with Ninetales Roaring Moon with Sinistcha in the back, or Arcanine plus Roaring Moon with Sinistcha in the back. I think Urshifu can be a decent lead. I generally like conserving in the back because I think like late game Urshifu is just such a monster and can really just, you know, plow through teams fairly quickly. But if you wanted to lead it, especially against, like, let's say a team that's Trick Room oriented that has a lot of Pokemon weak to it, I think you can make a compelling argument for it. But I think a lot of the times I'm less frequently leading Sinistcha and Urshifu. I'm more frequently leading a combination of Ninetales, Empoleon, Roaring Moon, and Hisuian Arcanine. So yeah, ultimately I think the thing about Empoleon is it can just stay on the field for a long time thanks to Assault Vest and decent natural bulk, especially when paired with Intimidate and the Aurora Veil support as well as the Machagacha. And I think this just makes for a really nice defensive core, and Empoleon can just really two-shot so many Pokemon in the form, and if it gets that competitive boost, can just one-shot a lot of Pokemon. So yeah, that's it for a breakdown. Let's highlight some weaknesses. So in terms of weaknesses, the first thing that I want to call out is that for this Empoleon set in particular, you're walled by Water-type Pokemon and Water-type Terra. So some examples include Water Terra Ogerpon as well as Water Terra Iron Hands. Assault Vest Pokemon in general can be pretty annoying for Empoleon to deal with as well, and obviously ground and fighting type attacks in Pokemon can give it some trouble as well. And so, for example, an Assault Vest fighting type Pokemon like an Iron Hands, like a Okidogi, for example, which I lost against in practice, can be pretty scary to go up against. One way you can counteract the Water Terra specifically is Terra Blast, for example, so that you have Grass Terra, Terra Blast. That's a potential replacement option, but that's just some food for thought. I also, in that same practice game against the Okidogi team, I went up against a Tornadus with Rain Dance, and I led Ninetales, and I just didn't consider them potentially being able to deny me Aurora Veil through manual weather. So things like Rain Dance Tornadus, Sunny Day Tornadus, Torkoal, or just any weather user can be pretty annoying to shut down Alolan Ninetales. Otherwise, if you're looking to shut it down, you can go for something like just try to burst it down with damage immediately before it's able to move. Something like a Fluttermane Chiyu, you know, like Icy Wind into Heat Wave combination can be pretty scary as well. So yeah, I think one other kind of thing that I've lost to while using this team is expecting to get more value out of Sinistcha, and I'm like, oh, I'll just be able to heal back later on, but then I just take so much damage that even if I were to switch in Sinistcha, I'm not able to heal my Pokemon enough to the point where it can actually survive a turn, so that's something to think about as well. And then for this Roaring Moon set in particular, for example, because you are the Flying Terra set, Ice-type attacks in general can just pose a huge issue to it, so something like a Chien-Pao will just always exert offensive pressure into this. But I think the main idea behind the Roaring Moon is to try to support it with screens, with Intimidate, or with the Sinistcha to redirect attacks away so that you're not as much threatened by those threats, for example. So yeah, but I wanted to focus on Empoleon specifically because I think it's kind of one of the stars of this team, and those are the things that I've run into that have given me trouble while using this Pokemon. It can be amazing, but sometimes it feels awkward when your opponent has that like super bulky Water type or Water Terra Pokemon that just stays on the field, and Empoleon's like, well, I don't really want to do much, but I don't really want to necessarily switch out either, and so that's one thing to consider. So yeah. Okay, we are up against Snorlax, Urshifu, Clefairy, Iron Hands, Como, and Sinistcha. So we've got to worry about Belly Drum set up from Snorlax as well as Como getting boosted up. What do I want to lead with here? We want to deal with Clefairy ASAP, in my opinion. Sinistcha's pretty interesting, actually, as a Rage Powder user. against Clefairy, we do have something like Flash Cannon. And I can Aurora Veil with Ninetales as well. I think if you're my opponent, you'd probably lean into the Snorlax then. But we can fish for burns with Sinistcha immediately, I think. Okay, I'm interested in something like Sinistcha plus Empoleon with... Do I really... Like, should I set up screens, I guess, is my main question. Does it make a difference? To me, I'm thinking I actually would rather have Roaring Moon and Urshifu in the back. Okay, let's try this out. So basically the idea here is by leading Sinistcha, we have the ability to just potentially burn with Matcha Gotcha immediately. And if you are the Snorlax set with Belly Drum, a normal type attack, and a ground type attack, Sinistcha actually walls that pretty well. Empoleon puts on pressure with Flash Cannon onto Clefairy. And it's going to be Clefairy and Como. Okay. So maybe they boost up here. Personally, down to Trick Room here, and then Flash Cannon turn 1. Yep, so they go for Follow Me. I was actually kind of surprised they led this. I was thinking about Ninetales and Empoleon as another lead, but it's just going to be the Clangorous coming out immediately. Okay. I think what'll be scary here is like Como is going to be decently boosted throughout the course of this game, and the question is, how do I deal enough damage to actually knock it out? Throat Spray, okay. Empoleon will get Flash Cannon off. It's a ton of damage. Then we get Trick Room up. So now is interesting, right? Because if you're Como, I would probably go for a Steel type attack personally. I mean, I say Steel type attack. Like, I've seen Steel Terra Como. If you go for Dragon or Fighting, like, I could Rage Powder a Fighting type attack away. Maybe I'm down to just go for Rage Powder here then, and then Flash Cannon and get rid of Clefairy. Maybe Clefairy switches out here, but nope, they're just going to follow me. So, I mean, Empoleon's putting in a lot of work damage-wise right now, so I'll take that. One other thing to think about is that Urshifu gets guaranteed crits onto Como, so it doesn't care about those boosts, but Empoleon here will finish off Clefairy. Maybe Ninetales and Empoleon would have been a fine lead. I could have gone turn 1 Blizzard, but this Ninetales isn't offensive. Okay, they just go for Clanging Scales. Cool, I'm fine with that. Empoleon doesn't take too much damage. Defense drop from Como. So you're back down to neutral. And they're going to bring out their Sinistcha. Okay. I mean, the interesting thing here is you know that I have the Rage Powder, so I would guess they just go for another Clanging Scales. I could Strength Sap here, which would actually heal me pretty significantly. And Ice Beam. I'm down for that. Maybe they go for Rage Powder with Como. Or sorry, with Sinistcha, which they do, but that means I get a super effective Ice Beam. Like, this Empoleon is just putting out so much damage right now, right? So, Strength Type here ignores the Rage Powder, so we'll take that. Drop your attack. And we're going to heal back. All the way back to full. Beautiful. Empoleon gets another strong Ice Beam off. How much? This Empoleon does just so much damage. They just go for Clanking Scales. Beautiful. Okay, definitely been an interesting game so far. 2 turns of Trick Room left. So, I can go for another Strength Sap here. But I wonder if now they go for like a Fighting type attack. We have Matcha Gotcha, which could use to fish for a burn. But I think I'm okay going for just another Strength Sap here. And then Ice Beam into Sinistcha. Okay, Sinistcha doesn't end up going for a Rage Powder this time around, which makes sense. We heal back again. And Empoleon's going to get its second knockout of this game. So 2 knockouts from it so far, just with super effective hits onto Clefairy and Sinistcha. Cool. And just another Clanging Scales. Okay. I mean, this Empoleon is putting in so much work, right? Like, it's making it really awkward for my opponent's Como to do very much. I think with this, it's interesting. I could either go out into Roaring Moon or Urshifu. The interesting thing about Roaring Moon is that it allows me to just Dragon Dance in front of Como. But I don't mind Urshifu here because my opponents lowered their defense a couple of times with their Como. So I can just close combat it. What's their final one? Iron Hands. Okay. Iron Hands is pretty annoying because it does give them Fake Out here. So I think what I have to do this turn is... Yeah, you're at -2 defense. Because I have Focus Sash, I feel forced to protect here. And then I'm just going to go for Nice Beam onto Como. I don't know. Maybe I could have attacked, but I just really don't want to feint to like a Fake Out plus Clanging Scales combination. Iron Hands could also just like Drain Punch us, for example. So Urshifu protects. Okay, Como protects. That's a smart play. But I think that's okay. Yep, they Fake Out into Urshifu. So the reality is now, what this means is I can just launch Close Combat into the Como slot. And you can't protect in front of it, which is good. Right? But I'm a little bit worried about how I actually beat the Iron Hands in the long run. So here I'm willing to go for Close Combat. If you go for another Clanging Scales, you drop your defense again. It's a roll on whether or not Empoleon can survive. But if we survive, that would be pretty key as well. Close Combat, which I think should just get the KO. And I need to start dealing damage into Iron Hands. I'm going to just Hydro Pump it. They still haven't Terra'd, by the way, but I'm not sure there's actually a need to Terra. They are going to go for Clanging Scales, and Empoleon survives with 2 HP. This Pokemon, man. That's a huge survival. So they're at -3 defense. I would assume Close Combat gets the KO onto Como. Beautiful. Cool. Empoleon put in so much work this game, though. You know, being able to 2-hit KO both Clefairy and the Sinistcha is really nice. And, you know, one of the nice things about Empoleon is that it just gets access to some really nice coverage, right? As Hydro does really good damage there, too. And cool, they just Drain Punch us here. Okay, perfect. I think with this, what do I want to do? Like, the game actually still isn't won yet. But I think I can just bring out the Roaring Moon. And with Roaring Moon out now, we get the booster energy as well. I would think they would Drain Punch into Roaring Moon. So I'm happy to just commit my Terra here. And just Acrobatics. Plus Hydro Pump. We could miss Hydro Pump here. They actually just end up forfeiting. Okay, I think it was worth playing out for one more turn there. But I was thinking, even in the case in which they make the read and go for Wild Charge onto us, Acrobatics plus Hydro Pump covers for any Terra that Iron Hands could be other than Water, I suppose. Water would be a little bit annoying in that position, actually. But even then, it's like Acro does decent damage, and then you go for Wild Charge. I'm not sure that gets the one-hit knockout in itself. And then you take a lot of recoil damage as well. Empoleon gets a Hydro Pump off, and then you're low enough where maybe I can just finish you off with like an Ice Beam or a Flash Cannon the next turn. So, yeah. But shoutouts to Empoleon in this one. We didn't even activate competitive throughout it, but it was able to just do a lot of damage, right? And the unique coverage of Ice, Water, and Steel just makes this Pokemon really awesome. Okay, this is a hard Trick Room team. Sinistcha, Blood Moon, Iron Hands, Kingambit, Torkoal, and Oranguru. Torkoal's a little bit annoying. It's harder for Ninetales to really set up screens. But if you're my opponent and you want to set up Trick Room, you're pretty much always leading Iron Hands Sinistcha or Iron Hands plus Oranguru. So how can I take advantage of that, right? Iron Hands is pretty annoying. I think I want to lead my own Sinistcha immediately. I like the idea of Sinistcha plus Hisuian Arcanine just from the get-go. I think Empoleon is decent here with the Solvest. Urshifu has Sash, which makes it a little bit interesting. Hold on. Actually, I think leading Urshifu is really interesting here with the Sinistcha. The idea behind this is if you lead Iron Hands, you're probably forced to Fake Out into this turn 1, but I can just protect and then reverse their Trick Room with my Sinistcha. Empoleon in the back. What do I want as the 4th? I think Hisuian Arcanine's a little bit risky because it actually hard loses to... I mean, like, I might activate Define on Kingambit, which doesn't feel good. Yeah, I don't hate Roaring Moon. Tough matchup to bring Ninetales out into, I think, because of Torkoal. It's like the combination of Torkoal plus Fake Out Pressure on turn 1. I guess I do have Ghost Terror with the Alolan Ninetales, but could you imagine, like, expecting Iron Hands to Fake Out into us, we Ghost Terror, and they switch into Torkoal? That would be a complete disaster. So it's going to be Iron Hands and a Ranguru. Okay, that works for me. Yeah, so I think in this position, you're pretty much always forced to Fake Out into Urshifu, so I think my main question here is, do I want to just go for Machagacha, fish for a burn, or do I want to try to reverse their Trick Room and go for my own Trick Room? Part of the thing to think about is I actually don't have a fighting type switch in with these 3, which actually is pretty problematic, so... Oh, but I can just Rage Powder with Sinistcha, actually. Never mind. Okay, I'm down to try to predict what they click Trick Room, and then reverse their Trick Room. So I'm going to go Trick Room Protect turn 1. And then turn 2, what I can consider is just like, okay, Ranguru switches out. That's a great switch by them, wow. So not going for Trick Room. That's an awesome play. Yeah, that's going to put me in really bad shape, actually. Because now they can just go for Eruption this next turn. So they hard read me trying to reverse Trick Room. So maybe it was fine just clicking Machagacha, because then the following turn I would have been able to like Rage Powder. But yeah, that's the skill it takes to utilize a hard Trick Room team, making a play like that. Okay, so let's think about this then. I can Water Terra to reverse Trick Room again now, and then go for Sucker Punch to reduce your Eruption damage. I think that's my best option right now. Even though that was a really bad turn 1, I think it's still okay. Iron Hands, though, is a little bit concerning. Like, we don't have super great ways of dealing consistent damage to it, because we don't threaten it with super effective damage. So, but that was just a really awesome call by my opponent turn 1, so kudos to them. I think if I had gone for Protect and Machagacha, we'd be in much better shape, because then turn 2 I could consider something like Dark Terra Urshifu, and then just Wicked Blow into the Torkoal slot. And they're going to go for a Terra. Okay, so I would expect maybe Fire Terra on Torkoal then, just to maximize your damage output. Yep. Okay. Yeah, this is interesting. I think we can get to a position where maybe we Dragon Dance a bunch with Roaring Moon, but my question is, how much damage does the Sinistcha take, right? And I'm also thinking, what do you do with the Iron Hand slot? Is there any chance you Wild Charge to cover for Water Terra Sinistcha? Because if you do that, I think the game is actually just over off this. So we get Sucker Punch. Decent damage. They're going to go for Eruption. Should still bring us down to Sash on Urshifu. Yep. Okay. The big question is, who is Iron Hands targeting here? Okay, perfect. They Heavy Slam. Nice. Okay, so we're back in business. You eat up Rocky Helmet damage, and critically here, I reverse the Trick Room. So that's really good for us. Now they can obviously go for a Wild Charge onto the Sinistcha slot, which is a little bit scary. So I could contemplate switching out into Roaring Moon right now. I also have Strength Sap, which would allow me to decrease your attack and heal back significantly. I wonder if Machagacha ever does actual damage to Torkoal. The Sinistcha has no special attack EV, so I wouldn't count on it. Okay, I'm thinking Strength Slap into Iron Hands here, and then just Wicked Blow onto Torkoal. Okay, we don't get the knockout, but that's okay. My main question is whether or not your choice specs. Because if it's not specs, then they can lock into something else. That would be a little bit annoying here, but we heal back up to full. Oh, they actually just Drain Punch. Okay, cool. So, yeah, it ends up being a super good turn for us. Presumably Eruption again. Okay, they do have Heat Wave. They're actually going to miss the one Urshifu. That's a critical miss, unfortunately. But it's funny because Eruption actually would have worked out better for them in that position, right? Because it's like all you need to do is 1 HP of damage onto Urshifu. So it's one of those interesting things about trade-offs. I'm going to Strength Sap Iron Hands again here. I could consider close combating. If I were my opponent, I would Wild Charge here and then consider swapping Torkoal out. They don't really have a safe switch in, though. So I'm going to Strength Sap into hands. Do I want to do that? Strength Sap and just Wicked Blow. I feel like Urshifu is so good here. Maybe I should have conserved it better, but we'll see. Curious if they want to go for something like Wild Charge or whether or not they just want to go for the knockout onto Urshifu. I actually think it may have been worth it to trade Sinistcha here and go for a Rage Powder instead. But you're on -2 now. We heal back pretty significantly. Yeah, they do Drain Punch and Urshifu. I think a Rage Powder there was actually maybe worth it, but it was just tempting to get Sinistcha all the way back up to full HP. Because part of the problem now is I bring out Empoleon or Roaring Moon. We do have knockoff with Roaring Moon. I think I'll go into Roaring Moon here. The Iron Hands, I think, is kind of forced to switch out right now. What makes this really awkward for my opponent is at any point I can click Trick Room to reverse their Trick Room, right? So one of the other questions is, what is their final Pokemon? I think this turn I'm willing to go for a Machagacha and a Dragon Dance. If I'm my opponent, though, I'm probably switching Iron Hands into Blood Moon and setting up Trick Room, and that could be really awkward. And my opponent completely outplayed me on turn 1, right? Like, if I didn't click Trick Room, this game would have already looked really different. So, let's see if they make the right call this time and do click Trick Room at the Ranguru. I would think Hand switches out, but if it stays in, I'd actually be really happy with that. Because it's a free Dragon Dance. We get a burn chance with Machagacha as well. Ah, they are trying to get fancy here. Yeah. So they do switch out a Rain Group, maybe expecting me to click Trick Room again. So Ursaluna comes out, but this is a free Dragon Dance now in Roaring Moon, which is huge. Sweet. So yeah, I didn't want to fall for the same trick twice, but the mind games are real when you're playing a matchup like this. Okay, so we get Machagacha off. Just going to deal super effective damage. That did so much. That game was over if we don't crit there. They no burn and they managed to crit me. Wow. Okay. It's still winnable though. As much as that sucked. Yeah, because I would have just been so well positioned. I would have been able to just Rage Powder like all of Iron Hand's attacks in the subsequent turns. So yeah. A little unfortunate to get crit there, but oh well, it happens. Let's see if Empoleon can still somehow clutch this one, because Sinistcha should win a 1v1 against Iron Hands, honestly. If I'm my opponent now, I'm pivoting Iron Hands out into the Oranguru and then protecting with Ursaluna. So I'm just going to go for Machagacha. I mean, Machagacha does so much damage to Ursaluna, and they already committed their Terra. And then we'll just go for the Flash Cannon here onto the Iron Hands, as I expect it to switch out into Oranguru. But they actually don't switch, which is a nice play by them. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great play. But I'm okay with that. Like, the main thing is right now, if you're my opponent, you have to deal with this. And we get a special defense drop, which is actually a pretty big deal here. You have to deal with Sinistcha in the long run. And you're at -2 attack right now. Machagacha, if it burns at any point, also puts us in a really good spot. So, decent damage there. And we get the burn. Cool. So, I feel like that turn kind of makes up for the crit. Yep, and they Drain Punch Empoleon for 43 damage. Perfect. Cool. Yeah, so even though we got crit, like, let's just make sure we don't tilt right now, because I actually think I'm still in really good shape. It's actually ridiculous how much damage Machagacha does to the Blood Moon. Okay, with Sunlight fading now, I think it's fine to go for Machagacha. I'm actually contemplating just going for Flash Cannon here. I mean, I think Iron Hand switches out every time. It definitely switches here. I think you have to at this point. Alright, I'll go for Hydro Pump. Nope, they don't switch. Wow. I see what they're going for. Okay, actually, that's really smart. Because they recognize that at this point, their main way of winning is through the Blood Moon. Yeah. So we get Machagacha off again and actually just KOs Iron Hands this time around. Cool. So nice job, Empoleon. Like, getting that special defense drop was a huge deal. And now we have the mind game of, does Ursaluna go for a... Or sorry, does a Oranguru Trick Room here? And do I try to reverse their Trick Room this time around? My other question is whether or not Hydro Pump plus Machagacha just KO Oranguru, but I wouldn't count on that. Sinistcha should also win a 1v1 against this. Also, Empoleon resists, like, your normal type attacks. So I actually think I'm fine to just click Machagacha here and Flash Cannon. Like, I'm not going to go for any fancy predictions here. Yep, so Blood Moon protects as expected. We'll get Flash Cannon off. And another special defense drop. This Empoleon came out to play today. Well, another Machagacha. Okay. I almost just KOs Oranguru. They do click Trick Room this time around. But that's fine, right? Because, like, my main question is how do you knock out both of my Pokemon right now? Because I can just go for Machagacha plus Ice Beam onto Ursaluna, and you can't knock out both Pokemon simultaneously here, I'm pretty sure. So that's why I was willing to commit to the safe play that turn, rather than... What I really didn't want to do was get fancy and, like, not target the... Well, I guess Machagacha... Yeah, Machagacha always targets both slots, but, like, if I try to reverse their Trick Room and read into Blood Moon protecting... target like the Oranguru slot, and then Blood Moon just gets a free attack off. I never want that to be the case, so I definitely wanted to click Machagacha to cover for that. And at this point, I don't think Blood Moon can knock out both Pokemon, even with the support from Oranguru. So yeah, it's going to be Blood Moon onto Sinistcha, and Sinistcha critically survives that. But even if we had fainted, I think Empoleon would have been able to take the Blood Moon fine because of the Assault Vest. So yeah. But yeah, that play makes the most sense. This game highlights how bulky Sinistcha is, though. And Empoleon, I didn't think it would be able to do too much, but it was actually really valuable in this endgame because it has super effective damage onto the Blood Moon. We did consistent damage onto the Iron Hands, and now we should just win the 1v1 against Oranguru. So, once again, I think one of the best things about Empoleon is just the amount of super effective damage that it pressures into so many Pokemon in the format. And I'm curious if Oranguru had any offensive attack here, but now we can just go for Flash Cannon for the KO. Foul Play and Psychic would normally be your best bets, yeah. And that doesn't do too much. So, we get Flash Cannon off here. I think even if Sinistcha had fainted, I don't think Blood Moon against an Assault Vest Empoleon's doing more than 50%, but let's actually pull up the damage calc, because I don't know that calc off the top of my head, and I think that would be valuable. So, yeah, that was a really close game. I think if the Roaring Moon doesn't get crit there, like I have a +1 Roaring Moon that has knockoff pressure onto a Oranguru, and I can just acrobatics everything, and we had rendered the Iron Hand slot really useless. But I think my opponent made a lot of good plays throughout this game. For example, turn 1, just predicting me to set up Trick Room and bringing Torkoal out immediately. I really like that they... Even though it seemed like obvious that Iron Hands needed to switch out, they realized that the only way I'm winning this game is with a Oranguru plus Blood Moon. So I think they have really strong recognition of how to play with hard Trick Room. And this matchup, I think, is pretty tricky for them because they're up against an opposing Trick Room user in Sinistcha. And I thought they played around it really well. But getting that second Trick Room call correctly was a big deal where, you know, they ended up trying to bait me into attacking and they just switched out. So, yeah. But let's pull up the damage calc because I'm curious. Okay, we've got an Intimidator here in Hisuian Arcanine with Iron Hands, Tornadus, Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, Chi-Yu. This is basically a Reg D team, nothing new here. So what do I want to lead with? I mean, AV Empoleon is solid here, right? But it's not that great into Chien-Pao. I think Chien-Pao definitely scares me a little bit. Something like Tornadus Chien-Pao, for example, is concerning. Because it's like, I think Empoleon's really good against most things, but it's not amazing into Chien-Pao or Iron Hands. But I think we can lead Hisuian Arcanine plus Empoleon, maybe. I haven't really utilized Ninetales or Roaring Moon, and both of those are pretty critical Pokemon for this team. So I'm wondering if I can maybe slot it in the back. I do like the idea of late game Roaring Moon here. So it's between Ninetales and Sinistcha. I do think Sinistcha being able to heal Empoleon, especially after leading it, is compelling. And I could potentially set up Trick Room with it with the defensive Terra as well. So, let's see. I don't know. Maybe leading Alolan Ninetales here is okay, but like I'm a little bit worried about... What am I worried about? I don't know, like a Flutter Chi-Yu lead, for example. If I Ghost Terra, Heat Wave, plus Dazzle just does so much. His hand's Arcanine, though. Okay, well, that activates competitive, so I'll take that. And we get an Intimidate off into 2 physical attackers, so that is not bad. Okay. So what do I want to do here? Really interesting position. Oh, you're not Intimidate. Wow. Okay, so it's Rockhead Arcanine. Well, I got baited. That's sad. At least I get an Intimidate into these, though. Fake out into Empoleon. I could see it just being like a Head Smash here, maybe. I think pivoting into Roaring Moon here is interesting. And I doubt I ever get Hydro Pump off, but I'll still go for it. Man, I got so excited to get the competitive boost, but yep. So we'll pivot out here. The idea behind Roaring Moon here is that if you do go for like a rock type attack, I can easily just pivot back out into Arcanine or Sinistcha. I think Sinistcha plus Dragon Dance on Roaring Moon here can be pretty good as well. Wow. That was one of those scenarios where it's like I never expect to actually get that Hydro Pump off. Not only did we get Hydro Pump off, we were faster than their Arcanine. Which is like really surprising to me. Because Hisuian Arcanines generally invest in some speed. Okay. One of those scenarios where I definitely did not expect that to happen, but that puts us in obviously a really great position. We just get a free knockout. So shout out to Empoleon. Yeah, that was shocking. Okay. Maybe you just end up Drain Punching into Empoleon. Chi-Yu could Terra right now. Dragon Dance is tempting. If I had Protect on Empoleon, I would go for it. Okay, I don't hate going for a Protect here, and then a Hydro Pump into Chi-Yu. Trying to bait out a Terra or a Protect from Chi-Yu this turn. Okay, they just Overheat, but does that KO with the Salt Vest? Nope. Nice job, Empoleon. If we hit this Hydro Pump, that should just be another KO. Oh my goodness. What a monster. Yeah, 2 KOs. It's really like nerve-wracking clicking Hydro Pump, but okay, nice read. They do double up on Empoleon for the KO, but I'll still take that trade any day, right? Now you're just stuck with the -2 Iron Hands for the remainder of the game. It's -1 right now, but if I bring out Arcanine, which I want to, you'll just be brought down to -2 immediately. Oh, and this is perfect. They have Chien-Pao. Amazing. Cool. I thought about Dragon Dancing there that turn, but I figured, like, even if I just Protect Hydro, like, what's the worst case? The worst case would have been missing that Hydro Pump, I guess, whereas, like, Dragon Dance would have put us in really solid shape, although I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. I have the speed boost here anyway. We're Grass Terra with Hisuian Arcanines. We gotta still be a little bit careful. And I do have extreme speed here. And we should always win the 1v1. Yeah, I think here I'm happy to actually just go for Flying Terra, Acrobatics, and then switch out into Sinistcha. The logic here is, by doing this, I get to pivot Arcanine for another Intimidate. Like, Iron Hands just shouldn't really be able to beat Sinistcha in a 1v1, because Sinistcha just hard counters it, right? So the idea here is, by going for Flying Terra and Acrobatics, I'll put Chien-Pao in KO range from, like, an Extreme Speed, and then I just finish off the game with, like, Arcanine plus the Sinistcha, right? Because, yeah, Sinistcha with the Machagacha and the Strength Sap should just never lose to Iron Hands. So, I just want to go all in on damage here. And if they protect the Chien-Pao, so be it, right? Like, I can just pivot back out into the Hisuian Arcanine and get another Intimidate off. So, they do go for a Protect, but that's fine. Okay. Like, the worst case here would be they clicked Wild Charge and then get a critical hit onto the Roaring Moon slot. But that would be a crazy read. Yeah, they just Drain Punch. Cool. Works for me. Okay. With that then, I'm happy to just Acrobatics. I mentioned pivoting back out into Arcanine. But I think Acrobatics and Machagacha here is also okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Mainly because Chien-Pao can't protect this turn unless... Or, I mean, it can, but it's going to have pretty bad odds, obviously, of doing it. So we could just win the game immediately off this. So now we get Flying Terra boosted Acrobatics onto the Chien-Pao slot. Yep, brings it down super low. And they actually just miss Ice Cold Crash, which is kind of anticlimactic, but they targeted Roaring Moon there, so... Like, yeah, even if you get the knockout there, Thunder Punch just goes into the Sinistcha, and then we just finish the Chien-Pao with Machagacha anyway. Like, their only way of really winning that would have been targeting the Sinistcha with Ice Cold Crash, and then hoping to get a critical hit onto the Roaring Moon slot. So, yeah. Now we can just go for knockoff, get rid of your potential Assault Vest, and go for Machagacha again. It's a 3-on-1. I'm not going to be able to win this. So, yeah. I'm just mainly shocked that my opponent's Hisuian Arcanine was so slow as well. The explanation for the speed, by the way, is this Empoleon is max speed. The pace I was actually using initially showed that it was max HP, but I obviously should have known that it was max speed. So if Hisuian Arcanine has no speed investment, then this Empoleon actually outspeeds it by 2 speed points. So that's what happened there. It's likely just a very bulky Hisuian Arcanine with no speed investment. So a very pleasant surprise there. I think that game looks probably a little bit different if Hisuian Arcanine even gets an attack off, but it was at -1 attack, so I didn't feel that threatened by it, and being able to get that one-hit KO was a big deal. The main thing was my opponent just targeting with the Iron Hands, fake out onto the opposing slot rather than onto the Empoleon. So they're probably just hard reading me, like going for a switch or a protect, for example. But it's one of those scenarios where I'm willing to get hit by fake out. And if you don't, I punish you really heavily. And that was like the absolute best case scenario where not only did you not flinch me, but I also outspeed you. So that just blew the game wide open. Wow, what a team here. Trevenant, Alolan Ninetales, Tornadus, Iron Bundle, Iron Hands, and Fluttermane. The Trevenant's really interesting, as well as Ninetales, obviously. So we gotta worry about something like Ninetales Bundle lead. What do I want to go with here? Roaring Moon is a little bit awkward into the Ice Duo, especially with Booster Bundle and Tornadus, so probably not that. Honestly, I could go with my own Ninetales and set up Aurora Veil here with Light Clay. Like, I think I'm down for something like a Ninetales plus Empoleon lead here with Arcanine and Sinistcha in the back. I'm thinking about Urshifu here just for guaranteed crits with Wicked Blow, but Wicked Blow's not even that good against their team, honestly. So, let's try the Empoleon Ninetales combo. Yeah, I think with this duo, I'm hoping to go for just immediate damage with Empoleon. Empoleon has really good coverage, right? Flash Cannon to Flutter, into Bundle, or sorry, into Ninetales. They're gonna go with Ninetales and Bundle. Okay, so this might be like a trade of Aurora Veils, but I don't mind that because I think Empoleon under Aurora Veil is gonna be just really good. Yeah, so there's the booster energy on the Bundle. Speed. Okay. We do have Vacuum Wave as well. Got a Arcanine in the back. I mean, Ninetales isn't really... Neither of these are really too much of an offensive threat. I think I'm happy going for Flash Cannon here onto Ninetales and Aurora Veil. They're going to Terra. Huh. Okay. I mean, I don't mind that. Terra Ninetales. Okay, Steel. Water. Okay. I mean, that's fine. Like, I don't think we're going to really do too much damage on either sides. Oh, they're just going... Okay, straight for Freeze Rondo Empoleon. That was a crit and still only did 55 damage. Crit is unfortunate, though, but it happens. Critically here, I set up Aurora Veil as well. I'm curious if a Flash Cannon and Vacuum Wave combo can actually knock out this Bundle. Oh, no. Okay, definitely not. Could switch in Sinistcha for healing. I don't hate that option, honestly. But, like, maybe you just Blizzard here, which concerns me. And I do have Moonblast. I do think getting rid of Bundle is a really big deal because it opens the game up for Arcanine as well as the Sinistcha. So, honestly, here, I think I'm down to just double up on Bundle. Flash Cannon it. And Moonblast it. Okay, they just Hydro Pump into Ninetales. I get crit again. And I get Encore. Okay. Encore's a little bit annoying. But that's fine. Because what I can do now is just Vacuum Wave into the bundle and then swap out. Okay. Vacuum Wave and swap out into Hisuian Arcanine. Bundle switches. Oh, wow. Okay. Good play. By the way, I had to answer the door, which is why I literally had 5 seconds to make that play. But we're good now. I do reveal the Vacuum Wave, which is a little bit unfortunate. And getting crit twice so far in this game hasn't been fun. But I think we're still honestly in decent shape here. So let's see. It is annoying to go through the effort of like setting up screens and then getting crit before and after it. But Blizzard here does literally no damage. Cool. I guess the main annoying thing is I do want to bring out Sinistcha at some point, but if they're going to click Blizzard, it's not ideal. I'm also not doing that much damage myself right now. I think we angle for a free switch in into Sinistcha, honestly. Or I could just bring it out in Terra. Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking Hydro Pump, Iron Hands, bring this out, take the Blizzard, but then just go for Terra next turn and then Matcha Gotcha. Because I really want to heal up the Empoleon right now. Nice switch out, though. I really didn't... Yeah, good awareness to realize how important Iron Bundle is in this matchup for them. Oh, perfect. They didn't even Blizzard. That's amazing. Okay, that's really good. And Empoleon misses. This is one of those games where everything is going wrong, but I still feel okay about the position, crazily enough. Okay. It's a lot of damage onto our side, though, which doesn't feel great. But I think what I'm going to do now is Hydro Pump again, commit our Terra, and then Matcha Gotcha. Like, it's time to just deal damage with Sinistcha. I'm mainly curious what Iron Hands does here, right? Because, like, do you risk me going for Rage Powder, and then your Wild or Drain Punch gets redirected? We do also have Arcanine in the end game. By going for Terra here, though, it's a little bit scary. One thing to think about is, like, does Extreme Speed even knock out Iron Bundle from the range that it's at? I don't know if I needed to actually go for this Terra now that I think about it, but I don't know. I think, like, I just want to start dealing damage, and Matcha Gotcha, especially given that they committed the Water Terra to Alolan Ninetales, actually is really significant here, but it's definitely been a series of unfortunate events between the double crit and the miss there. But Hydro Pump is going to miss, right? Just, accuracy just isn't great, so that's something you have to accept while using it. Okay, Blizzard here. Yep, now it does no damage. Empoleon does connect on Hydro Pump. Great. That's really no damage. But we're both kind of just trying to stall out each other's screens right now. But that's a lot of damage onto Ninetales. Okay, nice. We heal back. Cool. Burn onto Ninetales. Would have preferred Iron Hands, but why not both? That means Empoleon should survive this turn. Yeah, they go for Drain Punch. Cool, and we do survive. That's a huge turn. I think I probably want to conserve Empoleon so that I can go for... Man, the RNG in this game has been crazy. I want to conserve Empoleon so I can go for Vacuum Wave onto the Iron Bundle. Yeah, so we're both Light Clay here, which is really interesting as well. If you click Drain Punch again, I can switch out into my Ninetales. I could also Rage Powder here, but yeah, I think it's better to just conserve this. Like, let's go out into Ninetales right now, and then go for another Matcha Gotcha. There, Ninetales pivots out now, okay? Into Flutter Mane. Oh, I wonder if it was ever to just read that and go for Flash Cannon, but I thought, like, them going for Protect there also certainly makes some sense. But I think we're getting to the game state where Hisuian Arcanine's looking pretty solid against everything. That being said, I think Flutter Mane also looks pretty scary against us. And I think I really would love to switch out Sinistcha into Arcanine this next turn and then bring it back out so that I can heal up the Empoleon. But this Sinistcha is so clutch. It gets a third burn. Oh my gosh. Ah, and they Volt Switch. Okay, nice pivoting. This is a really intense game. Yeah, I wonder how different it would be if I didn't get crit. Because I think like having less HP to work with does actually make this substantially more challenging, but that was some really nice pivoting by them. So you get Bundle out for free. Do you pressure with the double KO right now is my question? 2 turns of Aurora Veil as well. Like, you could just Freeze Dry this, plus Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast. Empoleon's super low. I could switch out into Hisuian Arcanine, so the question is, would they ever Hydro Pump that slot, for example? Because I would love to Moonblast into Bundle, switch that into Arcanine. Because I really want to get a Matcha Gotcha onto an Empoleon, but I don't know if this is the right switch. Like, I'm wondering if I actually could have even just survived a double up here and maybe should have set up Trick Room, but we don't have special defense EVs on this. My opponent's conservation of Bundle, though, I think was masterful. And they actually Moonblasted Ninetales, so makes me think they didn't even double up onto... I mean, they obviously didn't double up onto that slot, and it's just Freeze Dry. So I think I could have just stayed in with the Sinistcha and set up Trick Room this last turn. I think that would have been huge for us. This does, though, now grant me the switching into Empoleon. Now, this turn I think is fascinating because they know I have Vacuum Wave. So I actually would like to make the prediction that they protect with the Iron Bundle right now and go for Flash Cannon into Flutter Mane as I switch out into Sinistcha. This is a crazy game. Nice, okay, that's already fine. Because I don't think you're KOing my Empoleon right now. Everything is getting so low as well. So Arcanine pivots out. We bring out Sinistcha for healing. I'm already happy with the outcome of this, but ideally they try to Dazzling Gleam, and then we just KO the Flutter Mane with a Flash Cannon. Yep, they Moonblast. Nice, we survived that thanks to the healing. And Empoleon gets this Flash Cannon off. Ooh, I'm not sure Burn finishes it off. It's really close. Does it get it? It does not. Okay. So one more take a Burn will do it. Aurora Veil now wears off for both teams. 2 turns of Snow. Moonblast. I think pivoting into Hisuian Arcanine here is fine. Flutter Mane's going to faint after this turn anyway, and I like the idea of going for Strength Sap onto Iron Hands, because if you Moonblast Sinistcha, then I just heal all of it back up. Also, it's getting dark, so I'm going to turn on the light real quick. Yep, they Moonblast. Moonblast into the Arcanine slot, which is fine. I heal back. Perfect. This could have been a Matcha Gotcha this turn, but I don't mind going for Strength Sap because what it covers for is like a Drain Punch onto that slot, so you just do less damage. But it's just going to be Thunder Punch, which is also fine. Yeah, you just do no damage here. Like Rocky Helmet and Burn's going to end up doing more, it feels like, than the Thunder Punch did. So, Flutter Mane feints. That's one of the nice things about this team. You actually have so much bulk to work with, so like every time you click Matcha Gotcha, you give yourself the opportunity to potentially burn your opponent, which is a really big deal, right? Let's see what their last one is. Or not their last one. They still have 2, obviously, but who they bring out right now. Ninetales is getting low. I mean, one of my other questions is just whether or not E-Speed can finish off the Iron Bundle. Bundle's offensive pressure right now is really scary, right? It can knock out either slot. It is the last turn of Snow. Like, I feel like conserving Hisuian Arcanine is how we win this game. I'm curious if Freeze Dry just KOs this. I do have Rage Powder, right? So why not just Flare Blitz into Iron Bundle and Rage Powder? That seems fine. I guess the question is whether or not Freeze Dry just one-shots Sinistcha. And I think the other thing to think about is, like, maybe you always click Freeze Dry, so I actually could have switched Sinistcha out into the Empoleon, but nope, they click Hydro Pump. Okay, nice. I think that wins us the game immediately. Cool. That just KOs Bundle. Like, I was thinking, even if you Freeze Dry there and you Drain Punch, like, the Iron Hands isn't going to do that much damage, right? But then the question is, can I actually win the endgame if Sinistcha feints to the Freeze Dry and you get a free Drain Punch off in that slot? But this Sinistcha set was so clutch in this game, right? So, Snow finally stops. Really fascinating one. Also, a lot of crazy RNG across the board. Like, I feel like I got very unlucky in the beginning, but then I got super lucky with the burns just across the board. The burns are really critical, especially in, like, finishing off the Flutter Mane, for example. But Empoleon being able to survive for as long as it did in this battle was also awesome. So, yep. Ninetales comes back out. And now we can just go for Extreme Speed onto you, finish that off, and then Matcha Gotcha. I didn't need to E-Speed there, actually. Well, E-Speed is fine, because I guess there's no downside to it, right? There's no way Iron Hands ever survives that. Yeah, they just go for Blizzard. 57 down to 25. And we don't miss Matcha Gotcha. Perfect. I think this game was an amazing demonstration of Sinistcha. We used basically every move. I think I could have found opportunities to click Trick Room in this game, by the way. Like, that's my main regret. For example, the turn that Alolan Ninetales went down, and I was worried about the double up onto Sinistcha. I think if I set up Trick Room there, we'd be in a super advantageous position because, like, we just outpace their team under Trick Room. But, yeah, I think ultimately things ended up working out fine for us here. But Empoleon was nice, right? Because it was able to just, like, slowly pressure my opponent. It forced the Terra out of Ninetales. It did, like, 80% to the Iron Bundle, for example, to start. We were able to deal Flash Cannon damage into the Flutter Mane slot as well. And it was a Pokemon that just lasted for the entire battle, right? So when you combine the Empoleon with screen support as well as the Intimidate from the Hisuian Arcanine, for example, and the Matcha Gotcha from, or sorry, the healing from Sinistcha, it's just a really nice combination. Okay, we've got Rillaboom, Golden Go, Tornadus, Hisuian Arcanine, Flutter Mane, and Basculegion. Interesting. Well, Empoleon looks really good here. They've got Hisuian Arcanine. They've got Flutter. I mean, we hit 4 of their 6 were super effective. It's Basculegion that I think causes some concern. One thing that I lost to in practice was Rain Dance Tornadus, so I want to be a little bit mindful of just leading Alolan Ninetales. Because it might be a little bit harder to set up screens than I'd like. I personally don't hate a Hisuian Arcanine Empoleon lead with the Sinistcha in the back. Between Roaring Moon and Urshifu is the last one. Urshifu's value is Sucker Punch, which I think could be really good into Basculegion. And with Focus Sash, just getting one big attack off. Yeah, I find it hard to believe that I'll be able to set up easily with Roaring Moon, because they have a lot of things that give me trouble. Maybe, I guess the more I think about it, though, it's mainly that I think Flutter is a pretty big threat, and it's not that easy to bring Roaring Moon out when your opponent just has Flutter Mane in general. So, let's see. Torn and Golden Go. Okay, I think Empoleon's really well positioned to start, and I think the best course of action here is probably to just protect the Arcanine and Hydro Pump Golden Go turn 1. I guess, do you even bother clicking Make It Rain? I'm hoping they, like, want to snipe down Arcanine, but maybe they just, like, click Shadow Ball instead, for example. But, yeah, I'm still down to Hydro Pump Protect. They're going to Terra. Okay, so I feel like this is probably Water Terra, which is going to be the one thing that's going to counter Empoleon a decent amount. But if it's Steel Terra, I'm very happy with that outcome. It's Steel Terra. That's huge. Empoleon is amazing for this reason, right? Like, we resist Make It Rain. I guess if it's Steel Terra and they click Thunderbolt, that would be pretty wild. But we have Assault Vest, so I should survive that anyway. And now I can Vacuum Wave Extreme Speed you next turn. So, I'm totally okay with this outcome. Because I was thinking my opponent wants to just get rid of Arcanine here. Yep, they click Make It Rain. Perfect. So, Empoleon is such a good Pokemon here to take this attack. That did 33 damage. That was Steel Terra boosted. Probably Choice Specs as well. And Hydro Pump does not miss. Beautiful. Cool. Okay. I think my main question is, do we think Vacuum Wave gets and Extreme Speed get the KO? So let's see. Hydro Pump with same type attack bonus. It's obviously a pretty strong attack. Vacuum Wave should do around half of what we did with Hydro. So I think with E-Speed, it should get the KO. Yeah. So I'm going to double up on Golden Go here. Cool. I think it should finish things off with it being super effective. Ooh. It's fine, but that's a little sad. But if Arcanine doesn't go down here... Wait. That's one of the best things about Empoleon, right? Like, competitive can activate not only from... And Arcanine doesn't even faint. Okay, amazing. Competitive doesn't just activate from Intimidate. It can activate from Bleak Windstorm speed drops, and Icy Wind speed drops, and all these other random effects. So... Given that, what do I want to do? I think Golden Go now probably contemplates switching out. I'm personally down to just Ice Beam into the Tornado slot to KO it and then protect with Arcanine. Actually, I could just E-Speed into Golden Go, right? Why bother protecting? I do think Golden Go switches out here, personally. And I kind of want to heal up Empoleon, so I'm going to make the Relay switch. Yep. Okay, cool. Into Rillaboom. Perfect. Yeah, I think Empoleon can kind of just crush everything right now. It's just a shame that we actually missed the knockout with E-Speed Vacuum Wave. I thought that was going to be a done deal for sure. If we get that knockout, this game is just completely over, I think, because then Arcanine just doesn't even take any damage. And Arcanine's just so good into my opponent's comp, but I think this is still fine. The downside is Sinistcha might end up eating up a Bleak Wind here, so it may have been better to actually just, like, take it with Empoleon, because I don't really need to worry that much about it. But Sinistcha dodges it. We're not fainting to that. Okay, they crit me. That still wasn't too much damage. Now we just get a +2 Ice Beam into the Tornadus. Yeah. Now the Empoleon train just gets going, I think. I didn't expect Empoleon to be this strong, because, like, the thing with Empoleon is it can two-shot a lot of things, but if you activate that competitive, it can just one-shot everything. So Golden Go comes back out. I think my main question now is for Golden Go. I mean, you can just fake out Empoleon now. Like, I guess you could click Make It Rain. It literally looks like it has 1 HP, by the way. Which is kind of wild. I don't want to Water Terra Sinistcha. I guess you could just fake out in Shadow Ball here. I don't even know if Fake Out Shadow Ball KOs Empoleon, though, honestly. I would personally Shadow Ball Sinistcha, I think. So I'm down to just Vacuum Wave here. And Matcha Gotcha. Ah, they go for Grassy Glide. Okay, but we just survived that. Cool. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that worried about Grassy Glide, but I guess if they were Choice Banded, maybe that could have been a little bit scary. But now we just get rid of Golden Go. Vacuum Wave being so clutch here. And Matcha Gotcha connects. Cool. Does it burn? That was so much damage with Terrain. Wow. No burn. That's fine. If I want to survive a Grassy Glide this next turn, by the way, I can just go for Terra Empoleon. Seeing what they're leftovers, but I guess if they were like Choice Band or Miracle Seed Rillaboom, that Glide may have gotten the knockout. But we stalled out Tailwind successfully. Let's see what their last one is. Like, I'm thinking... Okay, it's Arcanine. Which activates competitive again. So, you're probably going to Grassy Glide into us here, right? And just Flare Blitz into this. So I could Terra to survive. And then Ice Beam into Rillaboom. And then Rage Powder. Yeah, it's kind of cheeky. But I guess, like, this is overly risky. I think I win the game anyway, though, because of what I have in the back, so I'm down to just go for it. And show off Empoleon in style. The reality is I have such a big lead with Hisuian Arcanine and Urshifu in the back, so I'm not really worried about this, and I would love for Arcanine to... Or I would love for Empoleon to just take, like, every KO, if possible. Yep, there's Glide. Oh, it still KOs? Is that a crit? Oh, no, not even. I really thought we'd survive that. Wow. Okay. I just really wanted Empoleon to... Yeah, get that off. As Flare Blitz KOs me. But that's fine. Like I said, even in the worst case scenario, which is this scenario, I just now get Arcanine and Urshifu in and win the game from there. I was actually really surprised Glide KO there, honestly, though, given how much it did to Empoleon previously. I thought we'd survive for sure. So I wonder if it was like a low roll previously into a high roll this time around. But with my opponent not being able to Terra, this game is still basically locked up. Okay, we bring out Arcanine, we bring out Urshifu. Yeah, I really am surprised I got the KO. Okay. Now I can just Flare Blitz into Rillaboom and Close Combat into Arcanine. But this game was funny just because it showcased how Empoleon can take advantage of just random secondary effects popping up. So they go for Glide, but that's not enough for a KO. The thing is, like, because of the way I played this endgame, I did open myself to losing to, like, a bunch of crits. Like, if you crit the Hisuian Arcanine there, and then, like, Hisuian Arcanine Extreme Speeds me, and then you crit into my Urshifu, maybe there's a shot at winning. So it's one of those where I think if I don't make that greedy play with Empoleon, we win like 100% of the time, whereas like I gave my opponent a very small window of opportunity to come back in this game. I think if I were playing in tournament, for example, I probably wouldn't try to showcase Empoleon like that. I just really wanted Empoleon to survive the glide and then get the KO. But now I want to look at the damage and see how much that first one did. Either way, though, Empoleon still put in a lot of work in this game, right? Like, you saw how well it took that Make It Rain, did so much damage with Hydro Pump, was able to one-shot the Tornadus with that +2 Ice Beam. If we had a little bit more HP with it, we would have probably been able to just sweep every Pokemon. But at this, this game was interesting because like Hisuian Arcanine Tornadus both are really common in the format, and getting a competitive boost from Bleak Windstorm or from Arcanine's Intimidate, for example, is fairly common. So I think that game showcased it. Anyway, before we finish off this episode, I was just curious about that Grassy Glide damage calc. So it did 73 damage into our Empoleon before the Terra, and so after Terra, if you do half of that, that's, 36, 37, and my Empoleon actually had 35 HP, so we would not have survived given the initial damage roll. So this is one of those scenarios where I just really was hoping I could sweep everything with Empoleon, because, yeah, if that ends up happening, then I can bring out my Arcanine, just like Vacuum Wave Extreme Speed the next turn, for example. But either way, Empoleon still had an awesome game despite not being able to pick up like every knockout in that one. So this team is really, really fun, and I think what was really interesting is like Empoleon didn't really have competitive Activate until this final game, right? And even then it was still able to put in a lot of work against all these different kind of teams that we're seeing in the meta right now. So it's just a pretty consistent pick, and I think a lot of people consider Milotic over it, but Empoleon having access to Flash Cannon as well as Vacuum Wave makes it a little bit more unique, because you're able to hit things for super effective on the Steel Wind, for example, and Vacuum Wave is really nice in finishing things off, and overall Empoleon feels a little bit more offensive than Milotic as well, especially with the EV investment on this. So yeah, it's a really interesting Pokemon, and I'm just so happy to play a format where Empoleon actually feels viable. So thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.